Welcome back to the project Alpha, and I think this will be the most gratifying part of the detailing process. If you missed parts 1 and 2, I went over the project plan and overview. Dang, it's a loud bird. I went over the project overview and what this is all about and what the plans are. Cleaned up the engine bay, cleaned up the interior in part 2, and now it's finally time to detail the exterior. In general, the car's in good shape. It's just a bit dull. It hasn't had a good going over in some time. So it's really going to transform if we give it some TLC in the right places. I'm going to be replacing these mirrors with some good ones that somebody sent me. Going over the Brightwork, just a little bit grungy. Of course, polishing the paint. And going over the black plastic trim. And of course, cleaning up the wheels and tires and anything else that I come across. I'm not a professional detailer by any means, but I know enough to be dangerous, and I think this is going to be really fun. And by the end of this, we'll have a beautiful, shiny Alfa Romeo ready to market for sale. Let's go. So before I break out a bucket and actually start washing this thing, first I'm going to look at some of the little areas that are more difficult that I want to get some crusty old wax out. So I'm going to use some soapy water in my little handy dandy sprayer and a clean brush. Try to get all that stuff out of there before I do the general wash. And this is a soft brush. You don't want to use a harder nylon bristle brush. It could scratch the paint. I also wanted to look at some of the Brightwork and go over it with some steel wool. At least, you know, a good first pass before I do the general wash. So I'll look at things like the handles and these brackets back here that are pretty pitted. I don't know if you can see that, but you know, I'll try to go over some of these things that will not be able to clean up just with a wash. So the whole thing with cleaning and detailing is that you want to start with the things that require the most aggressive cleaning and work your way to the finer details. Looking a lot better, but of course when you use steel wool it leaves behind all this dust, so this is why I wanted to do this first before I wash, because you want to make sure all this is blown off or washed away before we start polishing. But it sure works wonders. Some of the edges like this around the handle might need some extra attention. So let's give that a little brush. Make sure we get it. And so looking at these type of edges. Anything where stuff gets trapped. This is an often overlooked area. Don't forget to clean in here. Nice. Okay, I think I'm done with the things that I wanted to shine up with steel wool and the little cracks that I wanted to get into with the brush. So it's time to do the general car wash. Now, there's not much I need to tell you about how to wash a car because there's a lot better videos out there on how to do that. But the big difference here is I'm going to use Dawn dish soap. Normally, you wouldn't want to use dish soap to wash your car, but for the exact same reasons you normally wouldn't, it's perfect for what we're doing here, because it's really good at stripping away any remaining wax or residue that's on the car, and it's not going to hurt anything. So what we'll end up with is a nice clean surface to do our polishing on. I'm also going to use this, they call it a speed clay. It's supposed to be the same as a clay bar, and you lubricate it and rub it across the paint and it picks up any embedded grit that's still in there. So we should just end up with a nice clean surface. So cut to the time lapse. Phew, a proper wash and clay treatment takes a while, but now we can really see the true condition of the paint, and it has its pros and cons because it looks better. It's got a nice, smooth, uniform finish, but we can more easily see some of the issues now. But take a look. It's looking pretty nice. Of course, it's in the shade now, so it's not as obvious, but you can tell there's not a whole lot of a shine on the top surfaces. We'll look at it tomorrow in the sun. But now, if I run my hand across the paint, it's nice and smooth. And that's thanks to that clay bar, if you will. I know it's not a real clay bar, but definitely helps. By the way, I've long held the superstition that a clean car is a happy car. And I don't know if you watched the first episode, but the car was having a bit of a lurching issue in first gear. Ever since I started cleaning it up and working on it, it's completely vanished. It's been perfect. It drives great. Coincidence? Okay, it's the next day. I just wanted to take a quick look in the direct sun. And after sitting overnight, even though it was under cover, I can feel a little bit of dust on the surface. So before I do any buffing, I'll want to give it a wipe down. You can also see there's a lot of little scratches and swirl marks. All of that should come out. So before I start buffing, there's a couple things I want to do. I'm going to take these mirrors off since I'm replacing them anyway, and getting them out of the way is going to make it a lot easier to come through here. And then I want to mask off any areas that I don't want to hit with the polisher. So for instance, all along this line, I don't want to hit the plastic because this stuff is porous and you don't want to get any compound or polished products in it. So, slight change of plans on these mirrors. I thought I could completely remove them from the car from the outside without having to take the inner door panels off. And you can get the mirror body off, but the wiring, because these are electric, there's not enough slack in the wiring to actually pull it out enough to disconnect the connectors. So with that in mind, there's nothing inherently wrong with these bases. It's mainly these caps that I wanted to replace. And luckily, they are replaceable. All you have to do is slide them out. And you can tell how grungy it is inside. Yuck. So I think all I'm gonna do is clean that up inside and take the caps off of the replacement mirrors and put them on. So I'll have to change my buffing plan a little. I'll probably have to do these areas by hand. I probably won't be able to get the machine in there, but it should still work out just fine. So after taking off the original mirror caps, I just realized these are two different shades of red. The replacements are lighter. So wow, I hope that's not going to be too noticeable. I don't really want to have to totally repaint and find matching paint that's close to that. So we'll try them out and see how it looks. Well, while I have these taken apart, it seems like a good time to use my special black trim restorer stuff since there's more access here. This is the stuff I use for this type of thing. It's called Solution Finish. It's kind of like a black dye for your porous plastics, and I think it works on rubber as well. And this will last a lot longer than any kind of dressing or protectant. It actually kind of, like I say, dyes the plastic a nice rich black. But if you happen to get it on any paint or chrome, it doesn't hurt it. It just wipes right off. So only works on porous items. Okay, so you just shake it up. I've already done that. Apply some to this little applicator sponge. And it doesn't take very much. Just a few drops. That should be good. And we just wipe it in and let it absorb into the plastic. It might take multiple coats because this stuff is so faded. I've also tilted the mirror down so I can try to get in here. And no worries about getting it on the glass, it'll clean right off. For harder to reach areas, like maybe inside here, you can also use a little foam brush like this. And then should be able to just get in some of those tight areas a little bit better. Okay, now I'll go ahead and start wiping off the excess. That looks so much better. Looks brand new now. Okay, I'm really excited to see what this is going to look like once I pop this fresh cap on here. It's held in with some little tabs. Nice. Look at that. This rubber seal should be able to just slip on in there. That looks pretty darn good. But I am going to lightly hit these with the buffer as well, so that's why I wanted to install them before I buff the paint. Here's the other side back together, and look how good that looks. Holy moly. Very happy with that. So I've been working on masking off parts of the car that I don't want to hit with the buffer, and I figured I would go ahead and show you what I'm going to be using to buff. This is my Griot's Garage buffer, and I've got an orange compounding pad on it that I'm going to start with. I'm going to try this Meguiar's number 2 fine cut cleaner. I didn't want to get too aggressive with this paint because it's original paint and don't want to cut it too far. And for the more difficult areas on the bottom of the car, that chip coat, I think I'm going to try this microfiber pad with this as well. And then to finish with, I'm going to use the number 7 show car glaze with a finishing pad. Should give it a really nice rich shine. And then I just have a pad cleaning brush to make sure it doesn't build up with too much material. I'm pretty sure this is single stage paint. There's no clear coat. We'll see pretty quickly if this pad turns red, which I am expecting. But it should get rid of all these fine scratches and give us a nice deep red shine. I always wanted to do one of these side-by-side stereotypical YouTube detailing things. So I put a piece of tape down the middle, and I'm gonna test out this section, and excited to see how it turns out. I did spray some water over this panel, partially to cool it down and partially because it helps lubricate when you're buffing. So let's try it out. Okay, ready for the big reveal. Can already tell. Let's peel this off. So satisfying. Well, it's pretty clear we have a much better gloss and shine, but I can still see quite a few scratches, and they're not super heavy scratches either. So I think I am gonna have to go to a little bit of a heavier cut compound, and I was worried about that. But that's okay. I'm really glad I did this test because now I know, and I didn't do the entire car and then find out that it wasn't a good enough abrasive. So back to the store to get a different compound, but this is already looking pretty promising. Well, it was more of a struggle than I thought it would be to find a good compound. All the stores in my area were out of stock of the Meguiar's Ultimate compound that I was planning on using. But I think I'm going to try this Griot's Garage Complete compound. Should be good. I've just never used it before, but I think it'll be just the right amount of aggressiveness to smooth out some more of those scratches and get a really nice finish. Okay, the compounding phase is complete, and I think that was the hardest part of that. I know, once again, it's kind of hard to see in this light, but I could tell with every pass it was getting shinier. Looks pretty good from here. It's getting to that awkward stage where you have to keep it perfectly clean to move on to the next phase, and you don't want to wait too long. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the final glaze step with the finishing pad. My correcting pad is absolutely done. Look at how red that is, and just a bit gummed up with product. I was trying to clean it throughout, but it would have been wise to have a second pad at the ready. This one, microfiber pad, was pretty nice. I used the cleaner to clean the rocker panels that are that kind of textured coating, so that helped a lot. But I just want to see how much I can get done tonight and hopefully be able to top coat it with some ceramic coating as soon as I can. So onwards. Okay, the glazing step is done and it's looking extra shiny. I pulled off the masking tape because I think and hope that I am done with the power buffing stage. This cloudy day is a little bit of a catch-22 because it's the perfect conditions for buffing, but I also can't truly see the result without direct sunshine, so we'll see soon, hopefully tomorrow. But the final stage here, believe it or not, is to give it a quick wash with proper soap. Just because inevitably I probably missed wiping off some residue here and there. And the soap that I have is made by the same company of the ceramic coating that I use. It's called The Last Coat. So they have this stuff called The Last Soap. And it's got a little bit of the ceramic in it, so it will give it a bit of protection. The paint's kind of in a fragile stage right now because it's still completely bare. And so it would scratch really easily, and being that it lives outside, don't really want that to happen. So the best thing to do is to wash and coat it right now. So I'm gonna do that. I should also note that this is a very gentle wash with your softest, cleanest microfiber mitt, plenty of that soap, and we barely want to rub on the paint because, again, it's very easy to scratch at this stage. So it's gonna be very cautious. But my camera battery's about to die, so I don't know if I'm gonna film washing it, but you know how to wash a car, right? Hopefully. All right, see you later.
The following day.
All right, it's the next day and the sun's out, so let's take a closer look at my handiwork here. It's a little afternoon, so the sun's at its highest point. Looks pretty darn good. I can still see some little tiny scratches and flaws, but it has a nice shine to it now. And I think for my purposes here of just trying to clean this car up and make it appealing for sale, I think I've achieved the goal I set out to do. You can probably still see here on camera there's some very light scratches and flaws on the hood. Again, I'm far from a professional detailer, so I'm sure a pro could have done a much better job than this, but for doing it in the driveway myself, pretty happy with that. So like I mentioned earlier, black plastic like this is porous and that can present some problems. So an unexpected problem I ran into here is I got tape residue all along it from my masking. So that's unfortunate. And cleaning it out can be kind of difficult, but I managed to do it on this piece. And what I ended up using is this SEM Plastic Leather Prep stuff. It's really meant for prepping for paint, but it's a really good cleaner that gets rid of any embedded oil or grease or contaminants from plastic and such. as you can see, it's working quite nicely. So I'll just go along and do the rest of it. Okay, now I'm gonna go around and start freshening up all the black trim, much like I did on the mirrors, using the same solution finish stuff. And again, if I get this somewhere it shouldn't be, it should be pretty easy to wipe off. How much better does that look? Holy shamoly. That stuff is awesome. And it should last a really long time as well. I also went ahead and went over the taillight lenses and the front turn signal and marker lenses with my favorite plastic polish. It's called NOVUS. I used the number 2 and number 1. But wow, this looks brand new back here. Okay, I'm going to move on to the wheels now. I did give these a first pass in the part 1 video, but there's still some gunk in between the spokes and here and there, so I'm going to give them another pass. And I'm going to use this Eagle 1 wheel and tire cleaner. Again, trying different products. I think it'll be good. A couple different brushes so I can get in between the spokes, and rubber gloves, and of course a hose at the ready to rinse them off. Let's see how it goes. Oh, if we really wanted to be extra thorough with this, we'd take the wheels off and then you could really get to the backside. But I think we're fine here. The main goal is to clean up all the bits that you can actually see. I don't think there's a need in this case to take the wheels off. But that's looking pretty nice. Now I just got to do the rest of them. Okay, now that the wheels are clean, we're going to put some dressing on the tires. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people overlook, but clean, natural looking tires really help the overall appearance. These tires are actually quite old, and we want to inform potential buyers about that, but we can still make them look nice for pictures. One thing I don't like when it comes to tire dressing is the really super ultra shiny glossy dressings. I feel like it looks unnatural and weird. So this one I haven't tried before. It's called No Touch Tire Care, and it says original satin finish. So hopefully we'll just get a nice rich natural looking black on these tires. So let's see how it works. So we shake it up And supposedly just spray it on in one circular motion, and obviously avoid getting it on the paint and the wheel. And if we do, just be ready with a rag to wipe it away. Let's see. It's a pretty nice foaming action there. Just make sure I covered it. Nice. They do say it can stain your driveway, so I might want to rinse that away really quick. But I got a tiny bit here, so I'm going to wipe it off. And the wheel, of course. Just wipe this off. Rinse the driveway. Try and get the excess off the wheel. And supposedly, just let it soak in. You don't have to rub it or anything. Well, this didn't work quite as advertised. I've waited longer than the 10 to 15 minutes they say it takes to dry. And it's just really streaky. I don't know if I used too much. But I did find on this front one, the same thing happened, and I just used a cloth to sort of wipe away the excess, and that worked out fine. Looks pretty good. So I think I'll go ahead and do this on the rest, but I don't think it's a new favorite product. But as you can see, I can even it out with a little wiping action, so it works. All right, time to take a look at the Brightwork. Yeah, it's all in pretty good shape, but we might as well shine it up a little. I'm going to use some Never Dull. It's a pretty clever product. It's a cotton wadding that's infused with metal polish. It's really easy to use. If there's anything that's a lot more corroded or dirty, I really like this Flitz polish, but I don't think we'll even need it here. So, just wipe it in nice and thoroughly. And then get a soft cloth. Sorry about the weed whacker in the background. And wipe it out. Of course, there's some scratches in it, but it's shiny. Pop the top open just so I can get to this very top part of the header. It's all about the details, if I haven't said that already. Okay, last but definitely not least, I'm going to clean up the glass inside and out. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but there's a lot of little water spots and whatnot and streaks from all the various cleaning I've been doing. So I like this invisible glass stuff. Works really well. Make sure to use a clean cloth or else you might get some streaks, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. Well, I think this pretty much wraps up all the steps that are at least worth showing you on camera. But this thing's looking amazing. I'm really happy with it. One thing to bear in mind is when you're doing a full detail like this, it's hard to avoid stepping on your own toes. Even when you try to do things in the proper order, you'll end up getting product or water where you don't want it. So for example, I'll have to go back and clean out the door jambs again and just wipe them down, because after buffing and washing, there's some water spots and a little bit of product like in the trunk seams and whatnot. So basically just another check around and go over anything that needs it. But aside from that, I think we're ready to take some glorious photos of this. So that'll be coming up in the next part. But I think to wrap up this detail, we need to go somewhere nice and really take a good look at it. Well, it was in this very spot about a month ago when I set out to clean up this one owner Alfa Romeo Spider and get it ready for sale. But I don't know if the original owner is going to want to let go of it once he sees it. It's been a long road to get here. I had to degrease and clean up the engine bay and detail it, take apart the interior and vacuum out all the dog hair, find and replace the headrest, find and replace the exterior mirrors, get a new convertible top installed, buff the paint, restore all the black trim, etc., etc. And you were there for the journey, and I hope you enjoyed watching that. But now my goal is to take some stunning photos of it and get it advertised out there for sale. So I think I'll be doing a follow-up video to this, just showing some tips on car photography. But we've given ourselves the best possible chance of success now that it's all clean and shiny. So let's check it out. Anyway, it's been a long road to get here, but I'm really happy with the results, and I hope you enjoyed coming along this cleaning up journey with me. So tune in for the next videos, and I'll see you around.